Hey Rick, thank you very much for joining me on Champion Chat today. I really appreciate your time today. How are you going?
Yeah, really well. As
Good.
good as you can in
Yeah,
in a lockdown scenario, but we're going well, yeah.
good. That's good. I wanted to cover the Northeast Link project today. That's a bit of a
Mm.
hot topic in Banyule at the moment. And also there was a forum the other night on for the community to participate in on the 13th, and there were about 100 residents logged on, as well as myself, obviously. About 100 residents logged on, and my understanding is that there were many, many questions asked by these residents. I heard about 130 questions were asked. So that was, from the sounds of it, it was a really good forum for our community. So
Mm.
obviously, a lot of the community, a lot of Banyule has heard about the decision for the of all four councils to not take the state government to the Supreme Court. So that's been a
Yeah.
final decision over the last couple of weeks by all four councils. So what I wanted to get an idea from you as a resident in the northern end of Banyule is what you're hearing, or what your thoughts are on the outcome of this decision, and what's in the pipeline for the Watsonia area.
Yeah, brilliant. So, no, well, thank you for the opportunity to have a chat, Alison. I really appreciate it. And I know that people in the north as well would appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Look, obviously, I'm a councillor on Banyule, but I'm here today with you in my own private capacity, and these are my own personal views.
Mm-hmm.
So just important to be really clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, in terms of where things are at for, I suppose, for the community, is that we know now the Northeast Link is going through,
Mm-hmm.
and we know now that construction, the tendering is about to be finalised,
Mm-hmm.
and a preferred consortium engaged by the state government to deliver the project. And we know that there's been a lot of concerns from the community around what the impacts during the construction phase and thereafter associated with the Northeast Link. There's been concerns certainly in the north, in my area, or an area I'm active in, about, the construction impacts. So, we've got, there's a very active, a shopping strip there, and traders and groups, and they're really concerned about what this is going to do to their business and to their livelihoods, coming off the back of, what can only be described as depression-era economic situation that we're all in due to COVID.
Yeah.
So they're really taking a massive hit now during COVID. A number of them have literally been forced to shut up shop due to the restrictions.
Yeah.
No sooner do they look to get over that this Northeast Link is going to start construction, and they're worried how they're ever going to be able to continue and persist as businesses during that period. So that's a massive issue for us in the north. And I suppose the other big issue, more from a general residential perspective, is just the final design of the Northeast Link as it's been presented to the community, which involves a substantial cut and cover design. And so there's a sense there from the community that we're going to be left with, a substantial cut dividing two parts of the city of Banyule, and whether or not a better design could have been achieved through what's colloquially being called now the long tunnel option, that's been really put forward, I know, by the Banyule Council, but also by a lot of the community. That's where things are at the moment. Obviously, the council, together with three others, lodged a court challenge to the process around how the government had finalised its design. And the councils have pulled out of that now and come to various agreements with the state government. From a community perspective, I think it's really important that we need to make really clear that this is going to have a massive impact on us. It is going to have a detrimental impact, at least during the construction phase.
Yeah.
I think, you know, once it's delivered, I think there's a general sentiment that out there in the community that this is good. Good for the area, good for the city, good for the state. But it's that construction period that's causing a lot of concern. And I suppose the other element is that we know that there's so many other things related to transport that need to happen in the north that we're not seeing the traction on, but would really like to. You know, we know that the Watsonia train station was built in the 1970s in an era where we didn't really think about age and disabled access in the way that we appreciate now. Yeah. It's a very difficult station for people that are elderly and with disabilities to use. Why aren't we getting an upgrade of that station? Such an important issue for the community. You know, we know that with all the improvements that have occurred along the Hurstbridge Railway line, and the implementation of the North East Link, how that will position Greensborough as a massive business and activity hub. But what about a bus interchange? We don't see any commitment around that being delivered. So I think from a community perspective, people up here supportive of the project and its longer term benefits, really concerned about the construction phase and what that's going to do to the business community out here coming off the back of COVID-19. And the other big theme I'm getting, as I've said, is, well, what about these other critical supportive public transport projects that aren't getting traction? And I think that's where the conversation's at the moment in the north of Banyule.
Yeah, that's fair to say. You made a really good point with the other key. Yeah, the Watsonia station and Greensborough station connections, they're not being included or involved in this conversation. You make a really good point too with you're talking about the design of the longer tunnel. The longer tunnel option, obviously, yes, is the key feature of this conversation. Of certainly Banyule Council with the state government. But what really has to be understood too is something I'm getting from our community is that this is just a reference design. It is not a plan. And the plan is something that is being created by the tenderers or the chosen tenderer for us to be, for the community to be involved in and have the conversation, and also the councils to provide their input. It's really important to understand a reference design is a really simple, basic outline. It is not the actual plan. The plan has to involve exact measurements, drainage, things like, landscape, width, height. It has to actually include specific pictures and outlines of what this will look like in the space that it's being advised to be constructed in. And we don't have that. So we're actually, the community is allowed to be involved in the conversation with the tenderers on, or councils will be speaking with the tenderers with the input from the community about what it's going to look like. And one of the key features is the topics of conversation is the Lower Plenty interchange footprint is at the moment, as per the design, the reference design is quite large and cumbersome. And for all of those transport engineers and look, any engineer, quite frankly, they look at this in the reference design and they just go, that doesn't make sense. And it can be improved. It can look better. So we're really looking forward to having input into the design, but also making sure or looking towards the interchange being a lot smaller and just a lot smaller and a lot easier to navigate, quite simply, compared with what's there now. So we don't have, so we're simply waiting for better information than what we have now. Because I'm, from where I live, so most people know I live in Montmorency, and one could argue that it's not being impacted. Montmorency doesn't have an impact, when in actual fact, traffic does come past, certainly my house. I live on a main road, and we've got traffic that will come through from Eltham through to, traffic's going to come through from Eltham all the way through like Viewbank Way. It's going to come past Lower Plenty, and it's going to go into the Lower Plenty interchange. And instead of people choosing a different way, or wherever they're going now, that this is an opportunity for them to come along Main Road and Lower Plenty Road. So that's going to make a big difference to Hordern Ward and the future Sherborne Ward as well. So that's where that interchange really needs to be defined really well. There's something else that comes up in my area too. The 26,000 trees that are being removed. Yeah, that's been a major conversation piece as well. Now, my understanding, by Banyule standards, if a tree is removed for whatever reason, 2 more need to be planted in its place. Yeah. So mathematically, there should be another 52,000 trees being planted around this area. What does that look like? Where do they go? Like if we've got a 10-lane road, as you talk about a cut and cover, we've got a 10-lane road going through the middle of Banyule. We're taking up land. So where are the 52,000 trees going to be built? So or being planted, sorry. So where's that? Where are they going to go? Where are they going to be planted? Yeah. And I know that Councillor Tom Melican, for many of you know, Tom Melican lives in Rosanna, and he's got he's got lots of community know Tom. He's been around for a long time. He's lived there for many years, and he's our avid cyclist. He has a massive interest in the cycle paths and getting around Banyule safely in a bike. I've seen him in the middle of Lower Plenty Road, in the pouring rain, in the middle of the traffic, try and cross the road. And he's all about the cycle paths. So I know that he's interested in the Heidelberg Yarra River cycle path that's actually going to go in between Manningham and Banyule. And he's really excited about that. Yeah. What's coming up in the Watsonia neighbourhood? I know that there are some cycle paths going on through there, aren't there?
Yeah, so, and look, I think you're raising some good points that, there's certainly a lot of challenges associated with the North East Link, but it has also opened up some opportunities. And it's really how well we've sought to capitalise on them as a community that it's been important. And I think that from what I can see, the council really tried to put a really strong position forward to really maximise those opportunities. Probably didn't quite get there to the extent that it wanted in the end. But you're absolutely right. Those complementary bike paths, so critical. And in Watsonia, the big one is what they call the east-west power line easement bike path. That runs underneath that the electricity transmission lines, basically from Plenty Road to Watsonia Station, and then across to the Lower Plenty River Trail. And that's, when you think about it, that's a massive piece of infrastructure. So I know that is being progressed, but and these are some of the opportunities that we really need to try and capitalise on. And I think why it's so important that the community and council and key stakeholders in the area just continue to advocate so hard and so strong. I know that there might be a sense in the community at the moment, well, it's all over now. The tenders are going to be awarded. The councils have withdrawn from their court action. That's it. This is a long project with many phases to play out. And as I said, that construction hasn't even commenced yet. So I think that there's going to be enormous opportunity for continued conversation and continued strong advocacy. But all the things that we're talking about at the moment, bike paths, the trees, you know, like you said, 50,000 trees are required to replace those lost. And, you know, you think about it, you know, think about one significant tree that you know, we can all picture a significant tree that's dear to us. Think about 26,000 of those being lost.
That's right.
That's massive for a green area like Banyule.
Yeah.
The flip side is that we need to push hard to deliver that. We've got on, I know that the council has got the Greening Banyule agenda, an ambitious agenda, I think, that was being pushed by Craig Langdon.
Yeah.
And now the whole council are around a massive program of tree plantings.
Yeah.
Maybe the council can talk to North East Link at state government and say, come on board and accelerate that and work with the council to get 50,000 trees planted. So I certainly think that there's some opportunity there to redress.
Yeah.
You touched on that, that interchange at Lower Plenty.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important that, you know, the work you're doing now, doing this podcast, putting it out there on social media, having the conversations, so critical, because there are still much chance for us to shift and shape and to secure outcomes for the local community.
Yeah,
you know,
agree.
By no stretch is it over, I would say. By no stretch does it mean now that because councils have withdrawn legal action and a tender is going to be appointed.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the conversation in some ways is going to deepen, and the need for strong advocacy is going to be just as strong as ever.
Yep. Yep, agree. And you make a really, really good point there, Rick. The communities, a lot of the community is asking, well, why did I bother? You know, why did I write all those emails? Why did I attend the environmental effects statement process? Why did I, you know, give you information? Why did I connect you with networks? Why did I do all that when council hasn't, I think council hasn't achieved what we thought they were going to achieve. And in actual fact, everything that everybody has said or participated in has been taken on board and considered. And it's really important that everybody in the community understands that all of their input has been so valuable to this process and will continue to be. We all must keep speaking and writing and you know, addressing everything that comes up over the next 7 or 8 years. It's ongoing. As you say, it is ongoing. We're not finishing. We're at the start of another stage. Everyone needs to be involved, as they have been, and it is not the end. And we need to keep in the conversation and keep speaking and passing on. It's what I've really come to understand with this process and these conversations is that while at the end of the day, the minister does have a say. It's the minister's final word decision that gives the go ahead to whatever. And we all have to speak our voice. We all have to be heard in whatever form that takes, because the alternative, as I can see, is regret. And we can't afford to have regret. Regret is not powerful. So we all need to continue the conversation, you know, and ask the questions that have to be asked, and really make sure that, yes, we're in conversation with the state government. And even though the minister does have the final say, we've still got to be on the table. We've got to be on the table. We've got to be on the court continuing to have the conversations. Yeah.
But I think, you know, you made the comment that, you know, that people in the community asking, you know, what's been the benefit to us of, you know, all the engagement they've done through the EES process and discussions and advocacy for council. What's been the return so far? And what I would say is that there has been a number of positive developments or shifts to the original reference design that have come about through those conversations.
Yeah.
So they're certainly not in vain.
Yeah.
And I think what's important to highlight as well, that Banyule Council has secured somewhere close to $50 million in investment in local facilities and amenities since the North East Link project kicked off. And, you know, I probably can't talk to what I see in other parts of the city, but I know just in the Watsonia area, you know, Binnack Park, massive redevelopment there.
Yeah.
Watsonia Square, $5 million investment.
Yep.
Money, substantial money to do that east-west power line bike path that I discussed. And I contrast the $50 million that Banyule secured with, you know, we know that the other councils that were party to the process, I think their order of investment is probably about 10%, $3 to $5 million.
Yep.
So I think the council's done a great job, but I think equally too, the council and the community are conscious of the fact that there's an enormous burden being imposed on the residents during this construction phase, an enormous loss of amenity through those trees, all those things that we've talked about, where there's really no room for hubris. There's no room at all for the council to go around and giving itself a pat on the back because it secured 50 million while other councils happily walked away with 5 million. I don't think that's the approach that the community is looking for. The community is looking for modesty, for integrity, for strength, and almost like you're saying, that pushing as hard as possible with no regrets to secure the maximum benefit that can for the community. I know that as an individual, that's what and as a candidate coming forward in elections, that's exactly what I'm focused on. I know you are, and many of our friends, but, you know, we have had a lot of success, or the council has had a lot of success, and I think it's important to call that out because people's efforts have not been in vain. But we're not, you know, I don't think any of us in the community or in council land want to sit back and give us a pat on the back when we know that there's so many challenges left unresolved. We really need to continue the hard work together.
Agree. And it's great that you mentioned Binnack Park, because obviously that's one of the many sporting facilities that last year, I think, council made sure that those upgrades happen to assist with the sporting events that occur every year. Okay, maybe not this year, but all, you know, all the sporting teams that use a lot of the local clubs and the sporting fields, they needed to be upgraded around this project because many teams had to be moved across to different fields in order to ensure that their games were being played and their seasons were being run. And Greensborough College is you know, one example in the Bakewell ward that has achieved some really good sport field upgrades. So that's great for the college, and you know, and various other sporting fields as well. They've achieved, you know, council has made sure that a lot of these clubs have got essentially upgraded new fields and pavilions, and, you know, the female friendly change rooms, etc. All of that's already in place. That was in place last year to make sure, and we, you know, council made sure of that. So that we get to today, and we're going, right, that's already been dealt with. That's been looked after. Our sporting clubs have been looked after. So there was a lot of foresight on council's part for that. And there's, you know, so that tells me that there's been a lot of conversation happening in the background there that many community members don't know about. So that's why, you know, something like this is really helpful for them, because that's not necessarily advertised. Unless you watch the council meetings, or you go to the minutes on the Wednesday after a council meeting and you go and read them, then you know what's happening, or you talk to your local councillor. But there are a lot of people who don't know that. So I'm glad you brought up the you know, what's happening with Binnack Park, etc. Up at your end. what else are you hearing? So just to finish up,
Hmm.
what else are you hearing that we haven't covered, or what else comes up for you that we haven't covered? Maybe looking forward, is there anything that's, you know, the community, any of your neighbours coming up to you with questions or concerns or topics?
Look, I think what's coming up to me is, this project now is going to commence in a COVID or hopefully post-COVID environment, and so I think what I'm picking up is there's a real desire for it from a jobs creation perspective, and then the economic benefits that will flow thereafter from having this great piece of infrastructure. But I know that for so many, as I touched on earlier, and I just want to go back there again, a lot of businesses, particularly in the Watsonia precinct, they're almost, they've been literally shut down. And, it's taken, the collective efforts of so many people to get Watsonia to being quite a vibrant, active shopping strip with cafes and amenities, and something that's really embraced locally. Like almost every shopping strip and business district, they've been kicked in the guts due to COVID. But what I'm really worried about is, they'll get through COVID and then we're rolling on for them to North East Link. So I think, one thing I think we've really got to do as a community, as a council, is really think through the management and the transition for them during that construction phase, and making sure these businesses hold on and survive. And I think that's going to be a broader challenge for council, more than just North East Link, the post-COVID recovery phase. But I really do think in that corner of the world, where so many businesses are vulnerable at the moment, we need to be going in there as leaders, you and I and others, going in there to bat hard and strong. And as a council and as a community, we want these businesses to continue, and we want them to be able to see the other end, not just COVID, but North East Link. So that's something that's sort of front centre of mind for me as well at the moment. And I know that, that we sort of share that and working together to try and support it through.
Yeah. And you know what? So, that makes sense. And what's coming up for me, near where I live, the early works in Borlase Reserve, which can still go ahead. They're not impacted by the Supreme Court decision or the challenge. So the early works could go ahead. So what's coming up is that there are a lot of residents in Viewbank who can hear the early works. So it's not just the Borlase Reserve residents, it's actually people across Lower Plenty Road. They're on the other side of the road. They're hearing the drilling and the whatever's going on, whatever noises are coming out of the Borlase Reserve, and they're concerned that they're being kept up at night because the works are at night.
So they're hearing it from across Lower Plenty Road.
Yeah, they can hear it across Lower Plenty Road. So they're being kept awake at night, and yet there's meant to be a curfew between 8 p.m. and 5. So 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. There's meant to be a curfew right now, and that's not happening in Borlase Reserve. So there are kind of conflicting things going on here for certainly Viewbank residents, and I'm sure, I've got no doubt, the Borlase Reserve residents as well. I can imagine they're very challenged at the moment. So what comes up for me then with that, if you can't sleep well, you're not well. Your body can't recover. Your mind can't recover. So how do you function day to day? So that's just coming up recently. Now it may very well be, you could argue, there's COVID responses, etc. But in actual fact, if there's night works that have been going on before COVID restrictions and now, it's not COVID related. It's just, this is early works going ahead, and our residents are being impacted negatively because they can't sleep at night. They're not being allowed to sleep at night, and they're questioning, is this okay? So, you know, that's something that may need to be brought up. You know, we've got to advocate for, or the council has to advocate for with regards to this. So I imagine, you know, that will come up over the next few days, week or so. Yeah, can we, you know, can the residents please sleep? Why can't they sleep? Why can't you help them sleep? Yeah.
Well, I didn't see, that's the great thing about having these conversations. I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was an issue until you mentioned it now.
Yeah, because it has only just come up in the last few days. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there's some foresight there to be able to say, go back to council and say, look, you know, this has just started. What are we going to do for our residents who are not going to be allowed to sleep? We've got to go to the state and let them know. Yeah. So that's a conversation to be had very soon. Yeah. So,
the issues keep building up. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right.
You know, that's what we're there. You know, that's what we're here for, because people need to be able to know a layer of government or leaders in the community that they can turn to when they feel that they're not getting traction anywhere else. So important, and it's great that people are confiding in you those issues and concerns. Yeah.
So that's so that's what, you know, the suggestion is to everybody who's listening and watching this. Please get in touch with your local councillor. Please get in touch, you know, with each other. Find a way to get to council and really be a voice for your circumstances and for everyone in your community, because you do matter. You know, people in the community do matter. And council hears that and sees that. So it's important that they actually present what's going on for them to their ward councillor. Now, there is more community consultation in the future with regards to North East Link project. So always go to Banyule City Council website. And, you know, like you've said, Rick, any other social media pages or podcasts, etc. And that's part of the reason that the Champion Chat exists, is so that the members of our community can actually listen to real people who live in the community talking about what's going on for them in layman's terms, in plain English, and in a more familiar environment, and to be more accessible. So this is the whole point of the Champion Chat. So thank you, Rick, for all of your conversation today. I really, really appreciate it, and looking forward to the future with hopefully, you know, a good outcome for our community with the North East Link project.
No, thank you, Alison. And it sounds like if you're living near North East Link now, it's face mask and earplug.
Yes. Face masks and earplugs. Thank you so much,
well
Rick.
Done.
I appreciate your time today, Rick. Thank you very much. You take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Good on you. Thanks, Alison. Cheers.
Right. Bye-bye.